And I said, oh, God. No, I shouldn't, but I got to own one. And so I shopped around, and no one sold a 750. You just couldn't find one anywhere. And found one, this one, in Maine. And been in love ever since.
I don't know if you saw it when you were talking to him. He kept the key fob from Portland Cycles. Yeah, and then there's a sticker on the back of the tail section that says Portland Cycles. Okay, here we have a beautiful original Portland Cycles correspondence with our first owner. Of course, the title, but more importantly, the same letterhead, notarized in 1979 when William first bought it for a staggering sum of $1,300. This is Bill's owner's manual that came with the bike. Nice repair manual as well that he collected. And the bike also has most of the original tools that would come with your 750 Super Sport. Spark plug sockets, a couple of wrenches, a completely necessary wooden screwdriver. I'll let you figure that out. In the car world, something like this would probably be worth maybe even 10 times as much as it is in the motorcycle world. When they understand the uniqueness, they'll understand that what they're buying is a fraction of what they would buy in the car world. And when they do, I believe, not only will they be untouchable, they will so exponentially be impossible to find. And it will one day explode to a point that will surprise everyone.
It is special inherently. I guess because of the shape, maybe the length of the tank, the silhouette and the curves of the rear. Most of it just says, give me a rider. The harmony of its parts altogether were unique. This was 70s. There wasn't a lot of hot stuff out then. There were a lot of Japanese bikes were beginning to streamline, but they didn't streamline quite like that. And in fact, I think they copied lines here just to find the curves. And like any piece of art, one line makes a difference. When you rode down a highway, somehow cars pulled over and just looked at you. And I didn't ask for that, but somehow it just stood out to others who didn't know bikes, who didn't appreciate the sound or the look. Somehow this just drew other people in. It wasn't the color, it wasn't me certainly. It must have been something about the Ducati, and it's just inherent in the beast, I think.
You know, people that I was close with, especially if they were into anything vintage, you know, I'd take them out and show them if I thought that they would appreciate it. And it was always cool to share it with other people because it's just, you can't look at it and not say, wow.
This bike was one of the real true beasts of its time, pre-Kawasaki Z1 or something like that. And so when you rode it, you kind of felt special. It made you feel bigger than you were, take a little more chance than you should, and you felt noticed. And you got instant karma from guys who hadn't really seen a Ducati, and from people who didn't really know what a Ducati was, and said, that's neat looking. That's really neat looking. You're gonna sell it? No. Well, if you do, let me know. If you do, let me know. If you do, let me know. And so life-changing is like owning a piece of art. If you look at it, it does something to you eventually. You may not know what it is, but eventually down the road it's done something to you. Like a photograph, a good movie, a play, a show, anything like that. It becomes part of an aesthetic. But this one you can ride.
The 750 Super Sport was really the first race bike that you could get for the street. The technology from the racetrack was put into a production bike for the very first time.
Riding it was a joy. It's not an easy ride, but it sticks like glue and it's smooth as hell. And the sound is gorgeous. My daughter, when she picked me up from a shop once, when I had a little bit of work done on it, she'd follow me up Route 287 in Jersey and behind me just to listen. And she'd crack her windows just to listen to the Contis talk to her. And it's a wonderful thing.
That's been one of my favorite photographs for as long as I can remember, so. always been out in the shop when I could always go and sit on it and think, just being quiet, just feel like a badass myself.
I think that's what's great about so many Italian bikes. There's something instinctually attractive about it. I just liked the look of it. Something captured me. It was very different from everything else on the market. I've had BMs, I've had an Augusta, I've had messes of bikes, but this one was different, and I was weird enough to buy one.
Some people believe, including myself, that the late 1960s and the length of the 1970s is the biggest changeover for what we now see as the modern machine. So the displacements get larger, the brakes get better. This is a wild time for aesthetically pleasing machines. And the colors and the sheer audacity of the design is aspirational still.
But the thing about it had tremendous pull when you got on the throttle, and it was smooth. The Ducati is smooth.
I mean, it's incredibly beautiful and badass. So there's that, you know, the history of the bike and his history with the bike. It's just very special.
In my opinion, the most important thing is sort of locking down the ownership history of such a rare and special machine. In this case, there is no question about its owner, its history, and it creates a very unique narrative. You know, he's had this bike for 44 years. He loved it as a piece of art as much as a machine.
In the last number of years, I kept it in my shop where I could just swivel on a stool like one here and just stare at it. Or I discovered recently that my daughter used to come out to my shop and sit on it. So that surprised me. She only told me that recently, that she used to sneak out to my shop just to sit on Duke.
Well, it's the first bike that I ever sat on, ever rode. And I'm pretty sure it started my love affair with motorcycles via my dad. Yeah, he's had a lot of bikes over the years, a lot have come and gone, but Duke's always been there. So that's been the constant bike, and the one that I told him if he ever sold, I'd stop talking to him.
And she's still a little aggravated that I've sold it. Told me she wanted me to keep it forever, and I said, that's tough to do.
Which clearly I didn't follow through on because I love him too much, but yeah, it wasn't easy to see him go because this bike just, it's always been really special.
I can't keep it forever, and I'm pretty old now, so I got to consider what I'm going to do with it. And so finally wound up selling it to Peter. Still a little painful. I see him over my shoulder, but he's not mine anymore, so I can't have the same affinity, but I do.
All Ducati 750 Super Sports are special motorcycles. They are considered the holy grail by a lot of people. Although 401 were produced, there are only really a few hundred examples that are correct. So to have one that was never registered for that long, without question, is a 750 Super Sport mated correctly, engine, frame number, in one single ownership, it's a very unique thing, and it just doesn't exist anymore.
The only thing I could live with is how I'm going to miss this thing. There's an empty spot, literally, in my shop, and I still get emotional.